Welcome to Conneaut Lake, Pennsylvania. Located on the shores of the largest natural lake in our state, this beautiful lakeside town is filled with rich history and local pride. Join us as residents show and tell everything that makes their community a great hometown.
Hi, my name is Colonel David White. I grew up in Conneaut Lake. My family arrived here in 1957, and I actually left here out of high school in 1970. What I'd like to talk about today is just to paint a big picture of the rich history that we enjoy here in Conneaut Lake, Pennsylvania. And you can't understand Conneaut Lake until you go way back about 12,000 years to the glacial period, the Wisconsin Ice Age, whereby the glacier extended all the way down here to Conneaut Lake. The glacier, Conneaut Lake is one of 5 kettle lakes in Pennsylvania, which is caused by the receding of the glacier. And when the glacier receded and started moving back north, it left a depression. And in that depression, when the ice melted, we have Conneaut Lake. A very interesting part of Conneaut Lake history is the early settlers, and the first would actually be the Indians who roamed through here, not in large quantities, but part of the Seneca tribes as part of the Iroquois Confederation passed through here frequently to hunt and fish, and there's many things that you notice today that can go back to the Indian heritage, to include our name, that being Conneaut, representing snowy waters, where they saw the snow lying on the ice deep into the spring. But the first person to come was Abner Evans, 1793. He established Evansburg in 1796, and he established a grist mill, and within just a year or two, pretty soon there was 15 or 20 small mills that grew up in the area because of our lake resources, the lumber resources in the area, the farming, very fertile area, and all of that, the town began to grow. And all the complements to that, carpenters and plumbers and builders and barbers and whatever it takes to run a community. But it was kind of slow growth and extended through probably the 1850s. A couple important things happened in that time. The Barber Cemetery, which is hallowed ground here, was established in 1836, and Memorial Park, which is in honor of the soldiers that passed in the Civil War that came from our area, 16 of them. The next phase I'd like to talk about is when bigger businesses started to come into Conneaut Lake and really were game changers. An example of that would be the Champion Tool Company, now Channellock. The Champion Tool Company came here in about 1886, started producing very high quality tools, had large orders from Europe and other places. They got so big they actually had to move to Meadville after the turn of the century, but they got their start here right in Conneaut Lake. Conneaut Lake Ice Company, a huge impact on our development. 200 employees here from about 1880 to 1930. Of course, its demise was due to refrigeration, put them out of business. But that generated, again, 200 employees and all that comes with that in terms of building houses and building a great little community. A third one, and an important one, is Mr. Heidi Cooper brought the Little Missouri Stock Company to town to raise purebred Percheron horses, which carry very heavy barges and help them through the canal system, what was developing at the time with the Erie Canal and the extensions from the north to south. And lastly, the game changer was Conneaut Lake Park. Conneaut Lake became Conneaut Lake Park in about 1920. It boomed during the Depression era and really thrived through the 60s to the 70s. And then, like many family parks in Pennsylvania, ran into some tough times recently in the last 3 or 4 decades, but it generated an incredible amount of tourism and people coming and going. Tourism, as I said, was huge to our development around the lake, and the way it would work is trains would bring in on weekends carloads of people that wanted to enjoy this great natural resource and the park, etc. But they would be dropped off, and then ferries and steamers would transport them to wherever they were staying for the week, because the train wouldn't be back until the following weekend. And so during that week, hotels became very important. We had about 40 around the lake at one time, or over time. Some of the names that everybody recalls is Oakland Beach and Midway, the Hotel Conneaut. For example, the Hotel Conneaut started in 1903 and had 1,000 rooms. Oakland Beach and Midway housed many, many people. And these ferries and steamers were all over Conneaut Lake, going from place to place. But when you stayed at the hotel, you also recreated there, swam. One day you'd go to the park, one day you would go to town or over to the Berg. And so it was a great thing, and things that created memories for families. As I said, we enjoy such a rich history for a small town of 650 in the borough. But our history is quite significant. And we've captured that in the Conneaut Lake Area Historical Society. Right here, I like to think of it as one of the best small historical museums in the country. It's that significant, from the woolly mammoths to the Indians to other significant things, and covering the people and events that have made this such a special place to grow up and live and prosper. I loved the idea. Although I loved Conneaut Lake in the past, I think our best days are ahead of us.
Hi, my name is Erin Wheeler, and today I'm going to talk about the beginning of Conneaut Lake as a resort town, and specifically the East Side hotels and steamboats. In the late 1880s and early 1890s, Conneaut Lake became a resort area. It started off with Frank Mantor in Exposition Park as a place to showcase people's wares and livestock. And a lot of people, what they wanted to do is they wanted to escape the smog and the smoke, specifically of Pittsburgh, because of the steel industry. So they came up to Conneaut Lake as a place to see the blue skies, clear water, fresh breezes that would really entice the senses of all of these individuals in the area. One thing that was happening during this time as well was the railroad industry was very much booming. And there was a railroad line from Pittsburgh to Erie, and it happened that Conneaut Lake was right in between that area. So a lot of the railroad business owners, they thought this would be a perfect example to have a resort area, a resort town, and a park on the railroad line. This was to encourage passengers to not only come to Conneaut Lake, but also to ride these new railroad lines from Pittsburgh to Erie. After Frank Mantor established Exposition Park, the next area that was established was the east side of Conneaut Lake. The reason that this was such a desirable area was because of the pebbly beaches and those gorgeous sunsets that everybody would see. One of the first hotels that was established on the east side was Oakland Hotel by Sylvester McGuire and his family. This hotel was a gorgeous structure that at one point had a boat jetting out from its main quarters. This boat had a dance floor and a bar. This was known as the party atmosphere. It's even spoken that there were some speakeasies in the area during the time of Prohibition. Also around the time that Oakland Hotel was established, another hotel popped up on the east side, Midway Hotel. This was more of a family atmosphere, more of a bed and breakfast that we would think about. Amos Quigley and his family established this area, mostly because so many people were coming to visit the Quigley farmhouse that his house was bursting at the seams, so he decided to build this hotel right on the shoreline. The very interesting thing about the Midway Hotel is that it was a self-sustaining hotel, meaning that the Quigley family had farm, and the farm produced all the goods for the hotel, the vegetables, fruit, and the meat. And some people might remember the Stable Pit and Pub. That was the Quigley's original barn, and this actually burned in the 1960s, and it did rebuild, but now it is Bill's Midway Marina. Around the time that the Oakland and the Midway hotels were established, small cottages popped up between the two. My family's cottage was one of those establishments, and we bought our cottage in 1911. One of the main forms of transportation during the early 1900s were steamboats, and hotels were often assigned certain steamboats. The Hotel Oakland had the Storm, also known as the Storm of Pittsburgh, while the Midway Hotel had the Iroquois. Oftentimes, if you're traveling around the lake, you're going to see land docks. Most of these land docks are on the east side of the lake. When you see that, it's a reminder of the old time, because most of the time that was a landing dock for these steamboats. One of the great stories about steamboat feuds was when the people of the Iroquois decided that the Storm was getting way too many passengers. So, as the story goes, in the dark of night, the captain and his crew from the Iroquois went to the Storm and stole the Storm's bell. And Thomas Sullivan, the captain of the Storm, upon seeing that, he declared, "I don't even need a bell in order to gain people to ride my craft," and he never replaced it. So you'll see sometimes in old pictures of the Storm, the bell is not there.
Hi, I'm Julia Ludi Catalano, and I'm talking today about the ice harvesting industry in Conneaut Lake. In the late 1800s, early 1900s, this was a time that there wasn't any electric refrigeration widely available. It was also a time that railroads were becoming really popular. And so in 1880, there was a group of men in Meadville who started the Conneaut Lake Ice Company, and they got a lot of investors. And what they did was they purchased a ring of land around the lake, a total of about 1,500 acres, from the state of Pennsylvania, who had owned that perimeter of the lake during the canal era when the lake was risen. It was quite a big industry. It lasted from 1880 until the 1920s, and it employed, at least during the winter months, about 200 people. And this is in a town of about 500 to 600 people, so it was quite a large employer in Conneaut Lake during that time. So initially, when the ice company started, there wasn't a train coming through Conneaut Lake, and so for at least the first year, these chunks of ice were put onto wagons drawn by horses, and they were transported to houses, to businesses, to hotels, various places around the area. The following year, in the fall of 1881, the Meadville-Linesville Railroad was in operation, and so that was a huge boom for the ice industry to be able to ship out many more tons of ice. In fact, they would ship out, the ice houses themselves would store 100,000 tons of ice. In the beginning of the era of the ice industry, they would transport the ice via either wagons pulled by horses or delivery trucks pulled by horses, and it would be locally in the county or in surrounding counties. They would take these and they would take the ice to businesses, to homes, to hotels via either the wagons or the delivery trucks. And I think some of us have seen the ice deliver. They would have the big tongs that they would lift the ice up with and take the ice. And they could be in varying sizes, because people would have an ice box and maybe 1 foot square or 2 feet square ice cubes that they would deliver. So the industry ticked along. It was a beautiful relationship between the railroads and the ice industry, because the ice industry needed the railroads to transport it. The railroads got a great business opportunity to have all this business. But during the 20s, electric refrigeration became more and more prevalent. And so there wasn't the need for homes, hotels, businesses to have these chunks of ice delivered. And so gradually the business became smaller and smaller, and then by the 1930s, these buildings were torn down. A couple things that we see here in Conneaut Lake that remind us of the ice harvesting industry. One is our bay at the southern end of the lake is called Ice House Bay. So that is a constant reminder of, this is where the ice houses were. We know that the ice houses were between where Silver Shores is and the condominium. So it was right at that southern end of the lake. We also have right in the entrance of our town, right at the entrance of the town, a park that is a park open to the public that was generously donated to the area by the Moyers and the Moss family, and that's called Ice House Park. So that's another remembrance of the industry there. And then for the past several years, we have had an ice festival. And that occurs in February, and we have ice carvings, and we have chili cook-off, and we have a lot of different festivals going on. We have we always have a display of a lot of the old historic photos from the ice industry. We're in the process of building a model of the ice houses and putting it on a platform that'll show where the ice houses were in these inclines in relation to the lake and the railroad. So that is in process, but that we have that at the Ice Fest, and it's also going to be an enhanced display we have at our Historical Society Museum.
Hi, I'm Bob Moss. I'm the president of South Lake Preserve, which is the owner of Ice House Park in Conneaut Lake. It's located at the south end of Conneaut Lake in the borough, in the town. And I'd like to tell you about Ice House Park. In 2006, my grandson and I did a study of the town of Conneaut Lake and what might be done to improve the looks of the town and the economic improvement for the businesses and so on and so forth. And well, by doing that, I realized that, lo and behold, when you come into Conneaut Lake, if you're driving into town, you can't see the lake. Gave me an idea. Why don't we try to improve the entry to Conneaut Lake and gee, maybe some kind of a park or something like that could be built there. With that idea, we decided to investigate whether or not it's possible to get control of that land, and we purchased the project, we purchased the land, and the first thing we did was to search out and hire a master planner, and that company was Pashik Associates in Pittsburgh. And they put together a master concept plan for us. As part of the planning for the project that we now felt that was going to happen for sure, we thought, well, we better get a name for it. And it was easy. Conneaut Lake has a history of ice houses that were located within just a few hundred yards of this site. Because of that history, it was easy to name this Ice House Park. Ice House Park today, now that all the construction is done, the development is complete, it's been operating now. This is the 10th season that we've been renting docks at Ice House Park, and the public has enjoyed the use of the park. We can look back now and see what it's been used for and what it was intended to be used for. And what it's been used for over the years is pretty much what we intended it to be. It's for the public. You see, almost always when you drive by, even in the wintertime, you'll see people sitting on the benches in the park, looking out over the lakes in the summertime or right over the ice in the wintertime, and enjoying the park. The intent of Ice House Park was for public access in perpetuity on Conneaut Lake. And knowing that, a friend and a previous resident of Conneaut Lake, Bill Dietrich, it has, in fact, endowed the park to a certain extent. It's relatively small at this point in time, but those funds will probably be growing over the next few years to a decent portion of the funding that's required for the park. But Bill was so eager to make funding available for the park for any use that the park needs. He is providing funds to Conneaut Lake Borough, and of those funds, 30% is designated for the use by Ice House Park, South Lake Preserve, for public access to the lake and so on. And we thank Bill and his legacy. Ice House Park is owned by South Lake Preserve, which is a not-for-profit Pennsylvania corporation. The park is not owned by the Moss and Moyers family. The park is owned by the board members of South Lake Preserve. And those board members are stewards of the community. They're all community members and enjoy their time spent to make sure that Conneaut Lake has the park available as intended.
Hi, my name is Bill Eldridge, and today we're going to talk about revitalization efforts in Conneaut Lake Borough. The Conneaut Lake Community Development Committee is an organization of volunteers, of citizens who all have a single purpose in mind, that is the improvement of the town. We work hand in hand with the Borough Council, and we are actually chartered by the Borough Council with a formal cooperation agreement. So we go out and raise funds for construction projects for improvements in the town. In the past, there's the history of the committee it goes back about 12 years already, and a significant accomplishment would be the Ice House Park. When you're driving into town, you see this, you're treated with this beautiful view of Conneaut Lake, and you see this park in front on the lake shore there. That's Ice House Park, and that really became the genesis for all of our other expansion projects. We have a current project going on right now, the Water Street Downtown Revitalization Project, which is heading west from Ice House Park. And we also are rebuilding Fireman's Beach, which is south of Ice House Park. We're connecting the two parks together. Phase one is the project that we're just now completing, and that is the total rebuilding of Fireman's Beach. It had, over the years, the infrastructure had just really became decayed. You would look at Fireman's Beach, and sometimes it looked more like an muddy industrial park than a recreation park. And so what we've done is we've included a very impressive promenade, a lakefront sidewalk, 8 foot wide, that goes 500 yards directly from the downtown business district all the way down the lakeshore to our swimming beach. And off of that, we have improved the parking. We have a new parking lot, which is organized, which has a rain garden to collect all of the runoff. We have new lighting, and we have underground infrastructure, which isn't visible but is very important. That muddy situation that I referred to just is no longer there because of the drainage in the rain gardens. We've included new docks, ADA accessible docks that people can rent at the park, and we have a new boat launch, which is very popular right now this time of year. And we have a new entry gate and a new entry shed. When you enter the park, you see all this beautiful landscaping and a new sign. In phase two, we've already started receiving funding. We have a grant for the second block of Water Street, so we'll continue to do the second and third block of Water Street. That is our downtown district, as much as funding allows. And we do have funding for a new playground at Fireman's Beach, which we will be installing this calendar year. And we'll also be erecting a new picnic shelter down there. And so one of the lessons that we've learned from going to other communities that have been through this process is you have to anticipate that these improvements are going to wear out at some point in the future, and you really should establish a nest egg fund to maintain them. And so we have done that with the Community Foundation of Western Pennsylvania and Eastern Ohio. So if Conneaut Lake is near dear to your heart, please consider a contribution to our Conneaut Lake Fund. Conneaut Lake is one of the most popular recreation lakes in the state of Pennsylvania, and the state of the downtown had really been run down and deteriorated, and it made no sense that we would have so many people coming from outside the area and really no place to go right on the southern end of the lake. And so it's a logical thing that we have this attraction, and we should develop it, and we should help the economy of the local town.
Hi, my name is Jane Smith. Today I'm going to talk about the history of our community building and how we turned it into a historical museum for the benefit of the community. In 1931, the people of Conneaut Lake decided they wanted to build a gymnasium so the school kids could have their own gym to play basketball instead of having to go to other towns. So volunteers from the community built this museum, this community hall. It became the gymnasium for the high school, which is 2 blocks away at the time. The kids walked from the high school, which is on 5th Street, to this place, which is on 3rd Street. They also had graduation here. They had their school dances, their school concerts. In 1954, when the new high school was built up where now is the middle school, this was converted to a community hall, and everything was held here. They had town dances, they had musicals, they had talent shows, they had bingo. One church, before it got built, had the church building upstairs, and it was a community hall that everybody used for everything. And then in 2003, the Borough Council, which of course owned it, was going to tear it down, and the Historical Society was formed in 1999, and we were looking for some place to put all of our artifacts. And we studied like 25 different sites, and some didn't have electric, some didn't have gas, some didn't have water, some wanted $250,000. So we kept coming back to this, and it wasn't just because it had all the things we needed, but because it was historic. So we went to Borough Council, and they reluctantly agreed to lease it to us for $1 a year for 5 years and see how it went. And they were concerned, as they should have been, that would we still be in existence, because it was only 4 years old. And the next year they sold it to us for $1. We own the building, and we converted it into a museum and collected artifacts. Today we have more than 38,000 artifacts, many of which are paper, but people can use it for research. But if you come in, you'll be able to trace Conneaut Lake's history dating back to the Native Americans to today. Our museum has a lot of history with it, as I talked about. One of my favorite history stories is in our boat display. We have this pictures of all these beautiful boats, and we have one that's a little, very common boat. And back in the early 1900s, when the Conneaut Lake Ice Company bought all the land around the lake in bankruptcy court, they said anybody that uses the lake has to pay money to put their boat on. And everybody agreed to that, but nobody liked it except one family from Pittsburgh. They brought this little boat up called the Anita and put it on the lake, and they, of course, seized it, which naturally led to a lawsuit, and they took it to the state Supreme Court, which ruled that Conneaut Lake is a natural lake, navigable public body of water, and that nobody could charge to put their boat on it. So that's why today people have free access to Conneaut Lake to ski and boat and fish and all that stuff. I think having a museum in a small town is very important because you don't get local history in high school. It's not taught. One of our members was a history teacher. Several of our members taught history. And we asked them, why don't they teach local history? And the answer was there's not enough interest in it. So we believe that we can preserve our history so the younger generation today can see what Conneaut Lake was like 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago. And it was totally different. There were so many more businesses in town. There were so many, just a lot of different things that happened back then that isn't happening now, just because of change of times. But we still have the small town flavor of America here in Conneaut Lake.
Hi, my name is Chuck Roger, and I'm here to talk about Liberty II. Liberty II was a speedboat on Conneaut Lake in 1921 or 22, and it was to be in the race. They had a problem with it, and so the next day they were out testing it to tweak it. And in the process, it hit a wake, flipped, sank to the bottom of the lake, and sat there for 63 years. Liberty II was a speedboat made by Harry Snedley for speed. he had a Liberty V8 motor put on it. In 1917, there was 15 Liberty V8 motors made. Out of the 15, there's 3 left today. One's at the Air and Space Museum in D.C., one's at the Wright-Patterson Air Force Museum, and one's sitting on the Liberty II in Conneaut Lake. That's the only one that runs. They found out that Liberty V8s had too much torque and not enough horsepower for an aircraft, so they had to change and go to Liberty V12s. Thousands of them made. The Liberty was running in the race at Conneaut Lake Park, and Labor Day weekend in 1922. It was a 5-mile course, but they had to go around 3 times to get to 15 miles for the race. It was first big race like that in Conneaut Lake, and the Liberty was supposed to be the one to beat. So they sabotaged the motor, and then they got it fixed, and they tweaked it a little bit. And while they was out tweaking it, that's when they hit a wake, and it flipped, sank to the bottom of the lake. It sat at the bottom of the lake for 63 years. Because it was buried in silk at the bottom of the lake, it preserved the boat. So 90% of the boat is original to the boat of the wood. The motor was preserved. It came up, the parts that could not be used, we have to have on display here at the museum. The motor was rebuilt here in Conneaut Lake. The boat at idle is a direct drive, so as soon as you start it, it takes off. At idle, it idles between 48 and 55 miles an hour. At top end, it could do 78. The problem is, at about 56 miles an hour, the torque of the motor pulls the boat into the left and turns it right. And Snedley being a bootlegger, they say if you have 100 gallons of alcohol on the right-hand side, it counterbalances the torque, and there you can get your 78 mile an hour. Other words, it just buries itself in the left and turns right. They brought it up. Brian and Simpson and Bill Houghton found it. They were 2 divers, and they found 3 guys who were on the lake at the time that the Liberty sank and triangulated where it was. When they actually found it, everything was buried in the silt except for the prop. And they touched the prop. It fell off. They grabbed it, brought it up, and read August 1922 on it, which meant they found the Liberty. So then they had to find a way to bring it up. And they brought it up and turned it over, brought it up, and it floated. They had to keep it wet for like 2 months while it went to Michigan to be restored. The motor is actually restored here in Conneaut Lake by a guy by the name of Gary Worthington. The unique features of the boat is the rudder is actually up in the front, which makes it a front drive. If you look at the boat, about halfway back, it has a step in it that causes that step. The unique part about this boat is if you look at the Miss Budweiser, it's basically set up the same way. They just got a motor that has the right torque and the horsepower on it to make it work right as compared to today.
Hello, my name is Carl Burkett, and I'm here to talk with you about the woolly mammoths that have been found in Conneaut Lake. We're now up to 5 of these Ice Age creatures. Among the largest number, perhaps in at least the tri-state area. They were found under various circumstances. The first discovery at Conneaut Lake took place in the spring of 1958. I was a college student at the University of Pittsburgh at the time, and living here at Conneaut Lake, I had an opportunity to participate in that on my first weekend back here after the discovery. And I found a few small bone fragments on the spoil pile and turned them over to Professor Parsons at Allegheny College. And a number of other local individuals found bones, and there was an accumulation of about a half a dozen during the project. A rib bone, a large rib bone was found, and a number of smaller bones, one of which was a fragment of a rib, and other assorted and unidentifiable bones, at least at that time. The next discovery at Conneaut Lake was made by a water skier who launched himself from a sandbar. We believe it was the party bar on the other side of the lake, just near Fireman's Beach. He wouldn't disclose to me or anyone the location. However, this turned out to be a woolly mammoth tooth, and a very nice example. And the area around that particular find warrants perhaps some additional study. The next discovery at Conneaut Lake was made by a local gentleman named Gary Worthington. At diving in Conneaut Lake, he found 2 clusters of woolly mammoth bones, one of which was identifiable as a neck bone or vertebra of a woolly mammoth, and that was radiocarbon dated at about 12,000 years old. The next discovery, and the last one, was a tusk that was found somewhere along the east side of the lake, and that was unidentifiable because it takes an entire tusk and the contour to make a positive identification between mammoth or mastodon. But since we have other woolly mammoths here in the lake, we're assuming that it was also a woolly mammoth tusk. 1.5 miles north of Conneaut Lake, another discovery was made. It was in an old onion farm, and the gentleman that owned the property was clearing drainage ditches with charges of dynamite. And one charge brought a tusk into the air and landed on the ground. And in other words, the project began with a bang. In any case, I had an opportunity to create a archaeological dig at the site. So it was laid out in a grid, and over a course of several years, what we found at this location was a series of complete bones, but mostly fragmented ones, ribs, a few backbones. We found one tooth fragment. Since we were operating without access to electric and pumps, we turned our dig over to Jude Kirkpatrick, who was a professor at Gannon University in Erie, and he did a field school program there with his students and finished our area. So that concluded the study of that particular location. The importance of this find was it was the first and the only mastodon in the Conneaut Lake area, which is now documented. The broader significance of the discoveries here in Conneaut Lake in these wet locations is that they reveal things that the archaeologist on dry land or the paleontologist working there do not have access to. That would be things like very ancient bone, wooden objects and tools, hide, bark, cordage, a vast array of things denied of those scientists working above ground. So Conneaut Lake could be looked at as a place where hidden history can be found in these unique, permanently waterlogged locations.
Hi, my name's John O'Grady, mayor of Conneaut Lake and the owner of Al's Melons Farm Market and Greenhouse. We also do the Conneaut Lake Trees of Light. The Conneaut Lake Trees of Light was started by Dane Lang and Dave Stefanucci several years ago. They actually got the project up and rolling. We took over the project last year, and to keep it going, there's quite a few trees around the lake, about at least 140 around Conneaut Lake. We do have them in the surrounding areas too. Okay. The trees are a 20-foot tall LED tree, made of nice commercial grade LEDs. They're on a whole bunch of residents all around the lake, on boat docks, at businesses. Just incredible support from the Conneaut Lake community on this. And it's got us started, it's also expanded out of Conneaut Lake a little bit in towards the Meadville area. So the trees are made right here in Conneaut Lake. It's a design that Dane Lang and Dave Stefanucci had, that they make a commercial grade head with these commercial grade lights. It's a 3-year warranty tree. We come and we put the tree up for you. We offer a service where we put the tree up and take the tree down for you and store it till the next year or two. The community of Conneaut Lake has supported us greatly, and it's become a great attraction for the area. They're all winter long, you'll see people coming down at Ice House Park at Station 3 to sit there and look down along the lake and see the trees driving around the lake. It's just become a very great thing. The Barbara J does do boat rides around. It's a boat ride around the lake to see the trees till Christmas time. The Conneaut Lake community has supported us greatly with the trees. We have enough around here that it's bringing a lot of people out to the lake just to view the trees in the evenings in the wintertime. The Barbara J does also do boat rides up and down Conneaut Lake showcasing the trees, and it's just been a great thing for the Conneaut Lake area bringing people out. Anytime a small town can get the support from the residents that we have and can bring people out to your town, I just feel it's a really great thing.
Hi, my name is Judy Groger. I'm here to tell you about our living Christmas tree at the Trinity United Methodist Church, but I'm also a participant here at the Conneaut Lake Historical Society, so kind of have 2 different hats I wear. We started about 1986 by our pastor at the time. His name was John Creeds. He had a vision about a live living Christmas tree. So a wooden structure was built in front of our church, and it can hold up to 90 singers, and that's where it started. Well, I do not really know the reason why he wanted to do it, other than he was a passionate man who loved Christmas, and I think he just wanted to bring the joy of Christmas to the community. The performances are all free, and we perform 4 different times during a weekend, a Friday, a Saturday, twice on Sunday. And I think he just wanted the joy of Christmas to be presented to the community. The Living Christmas Tree is performed normally the first weekend in December. And we try to keep it that way so that the community knows when they can plan on their schedule when the tree's going to be. It is a Christmas theme. Our cantatas always vary with different producers, but our Tina Teeter is our director, and she's very enthusiastic, and it just bubbles over into all the participants, whether they're volunteers who put the tree up every year or the volunteers, which are many, that decorate it. And the music is lively and fun, and it's just a joy to perform. And we hope that joy of the Christmas season that we're able to convey to our audiences. Our tree has over 20 different churches involved, which brings lots of individuals from all around the community together. And we work together, and lots of volunteers work together to have this performance come to the community. We have a love offering when we're there, and that money is distributed to the community. We keep it right here in Conneaut Lake. We do like His Work, His Way, the community covered, flood buckets. Lots of community projects are supported by the Living Christmas Tree. Having community projects, I think, brings the community together, gives you an opportunity to get to know individuals where maybe you wouldn't get an opportunity in any other way. You are able to put joy into the relationships where it's a small town, and you get to know everybody, and it's just a warm and a loving feeling.
Hi, my name is Margaret Stahl, and I'm here today to tell you about the Samaritans of the Conneaut Lake area. The organization was founded in 1982. There were a group of women who met at the Our Lady, Queen of the Americas Church for a Bible study session. And during the session, it was mentioned that there was an article in the paper about a child in the area who had died from malnutrition. The ladies were upset by this and thought that they should take action and try to prevent this from ever happening again. So they began collecting donations of food, and for Thanksgiving, 1982, they gave out their first food basket. They then made alliances with the Food Bank in Erie and the Center for Family Services in Meadville. At the same time, all the churches in the area wanted to become involved with the project, so we became an ecumenical organization. Their second idea for their mission was to provide clothing for people. So in 1986, they opened their first thrift shop in East Fallfield Township building. They were there for 15 years. And after it was condemned, they were looking for another place for a thrift shop. So they were able to use the Greenwood Elementary School and opened a thrift shop there from 2004 to 2008. The thrift shop is important to the Samaritans because it's a source of income, which they then turn around and give back to the community to help with financial need, an electric bill that's overdue, car payment that is needed in order to go to work, medical bills, whatever it is in the community that would be a help. After the school building was closed in 2008, we spent time looking around for a new home in the area. We couldn't find anything that suited our needs that we could afford, and we came up with the idea that maybe we could build something on the property of Our Lady Queen of the Americas Church. The church was accommodating to the idea, and there was a parishioner who said that she would fund the building. So everything happened very quickly. Within 6 months, we had plans, we had a contractor, we had a building, and we were open for our first distribution of food in the new building in September of 2010. And a few weeks later, we did our first thrift shop opening. And we are at that location now and hope to be there permanently. We have one other program which the Samaritans orchestrate, and that is something called Gifts for Kids. So every Christmas, we try to make sure that children in the area have a special Christmas that wouldn't otherwise maybe be getting gifts, and we're able to see that they get a gift bag with some toys and clothing. In 2010, when the new store opened, we suddenly realized that the people in the community saw us as a charity, but the government didn't know we were a charity. So we got a board of directors, a set of bylaws, became incorporated, applied for our own federal ID number, and became a 501c3 charity at that time. The community has been very kind to the Samaritans. They give us financial donations, and with the thrift store, the profits that we make from there, we have, since the incorporation, since 2010, we have been able to put $255,000 back into the community to help families in need in our general area.
Hi, I'm Michael Krebs, and I'm here to talk to you today about His Work, His Way, a nonprofit organization in Conneaut Lake. His Work, His Way began in 2009, but it actually goes back a year. 2008, a group of folks from our community went down to Pittsburgh and served a short-term mission at the Pittsburgh Project. They came home and they were so excited that they said, why can't we do that here in Conneaut Lake and help the senior citizens in our own area? So after short reflection, we said, well, why can't we? And we formed a board and we started the process. We incorporated, we became a 501c3b nonprofit. We became tax exempt in the state of Pennsylvania, and we started to lay the groundwork with all the paperwork that we needed to get the word out in our community. So that was in 2009, so this was our 10th year. In 2009, we began as a overnight camp, and the teens really enjoyed that because they were out of the house and kind of on their own for the week. We used the high school here in Conneaut Lake and took over the gymnasium. We had the locker rooms for showering, and we had chaperones, and we had entertainment for the kids in the evening. They worked hard all day, and then we had some fun in the evenings. After the third year, the school board in Conneaut Lake decided to renovate their buildings. So the high school wasn't available in our fourth year, and we went to a day camp. This disappointed some folks, but it drew out other folks. So we made a pretty smooth transition, and we've been a day camp ever since 2012. His Work His Way takes on the projects that the seniors ask for in their applications. From year to year, we're not quite sure what we're going to be doing. It ranges from yard work, planting flowers, cleaning a basement, a garage, all the way to roofing and siding and painting and drywalling, electrical, plumbing. Your imagination on a home repair could take you through all of it. His Work His Way accepts volunteers from age 12 up to as long as you feel able. We have a lady that works in the kitchen every year, and she's in her 90s. We have younger children who come and they want to hang out and help any way they can, remaining back at the church. They're not allowed to go out on jobs with us, but they're so anxious to get into the program when they become 12 years old. We take volunteers that have no skill, all the way up to folks who are very skilled at a particular area. This past year, we had about 45 folks volunteer to work out in the field, and we had an additional 30 or 35 in the kitchen. That's pretty typical of the numbers. We've had well over 200 folks who have signed up to work. Many of those folks have worked all 10 years. Some, this was their first year. And we also have usually between 10 and 15 teens, and the rest are adults. We're sort of unique in the sense that when you think of a volunteer activity, you don't think of money, but we actually ask our volunteers to pay. They pay $75 to come for the week. That helps to offset our insurance. It helps to offset some of the food supplies and some of the materials that we purchase for the projects. His Work His Way couldn't exist without the support that we have here in Conneaut Lake. It's a caring and close community. We have 8 churches that support us through their prayers, through providing food for our meals, as well as financial support. We also have individuals in the community, I guess we could call them advisors or experts. They might be in the plumbing field or in the hardware store or in the lumber yard. We go to them with questions on projects that we're just not sure how to handle, and they always guide us through it, and we're able to complete the tasks. We also have had accountants and attorneys who have worked with us throughout the whole process. So it takes the whole community to make the project work. I think many times small communities lack resources. Tax dollars aren't necessarily great enough to provide for senior citizens in this way, and we have to lean on each other. And so Conneaut Lake is a wonderful place to live, to work, and to just be a part of people who care about other people.
I'm Robert Disco, and I'm here today to talk about the Beach View Rooms. The house was built in 1900, and Then it burned down in 1908 and then rebuilt again in 1909. Now, I don't know where along the line it came to be Beachview Rooms, because I have an old postcard that shows the miniature golf that used to be out front, and the sign sticking out there said Lakeview, so I don't understand what happened with that, other than the person who owned it moved to the big house on the corner, because then the corner house became the Lakeview and we became the Beachview. We first came to the Beachview in 1972 and stayed overnight while we were looking for a place to buy. The housekeeper at this particular house told us, well, this place is for sale. Well, we didn't know. She called the owner, who was Ed Graham from Shakelyville, had a funeral home, came over and we talked to him, and then 2 weeks later we moved in. When we got here, the house was already full of people who were already renting. And the housekeeper had already left to go to a bingo game somewhere, so everybody that was renting was in charge. They all were waiting for us on the porch, and we walked in, they all clapped and cheered. So there we were with 2 toddlers, a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, 50 sets of sheets, a house full of people we didn't know, and we were on our way. And we started a bed and breakfast at that time. Before then, it was just a rooming house. Well, we're located right in the center of Conneaut Lake on Center Street in the park. We were right next door to the fun house until the fun house caved in and the bricks all fell on us and broke the windows in and everything, and we had to get that all repaired. So, and we're right behind the fun deck. The garden was in front of us, a sunken garden from the whole strip. And then it became the golf course. And then they took that out, now it's the fun deck. So, now we've turned the house over to our daughter, Lisa Wallace, and they just come on the weekends. I'm here all for 6 months, and they come on the weekends whenever they can, and then family friends stop in and that. In the past, we used to play canasta, was a big thing at one time. We'd stayed up half the night watching that, and our neighbors, Richard Sebastian and Beverly Grand, and other people would come, and we'd all play canasta all night after the kids went to bed.
Hi, I'm Diane Rhodes, and I'm the director at the Margaret Shantz Memorial Library in Conneaut Lake. So the library was founded in 1971. The Fifth Street Presbyterian Church received a gift in memory of Margaret Shantz from her sister Emily, and the idea of a library was proposed. That was in 1971. It began in the education building of the church. They had 2 rooms they furnished with table and chairs, a desk, and shelves of books. The association, the Women's Association, donated the books for the library. The library decided to find a new building in 1976. They wanted to separate from the church and become a public library and qualify for state funding. The library moved to 145 South 2nd Street in 1978. And it became a charter member of the Crawford County Federated Library System at that time. The library has seen a lot of renovations, improvements over the years. We have a preschool story hour once a week. We have a story hour for life skills kids from the local elementary school, K through 4. We have a summer reading program. We have an adult book club that meets there monthly. So we have a lot of programs. I think it's important because it offers free information to anyone who wants to use it. A library card is free and it's open to the public, and we offer computers and office machines, and that, is a benefit to the public.
My name is Joel Wolf. I'm the owner, president, and general manager of Conneaut Winery and Distillery. I'm going to talk about the winery and distillery. My dad, Dr. Alan Wolf, and my mom, Phyllis, they started the winery in 1982. They picked the location because family reasons. My dad was raised in the area, and us kids were raised in the area, so we were tied to that. Also, being in a resort area, we thought it would be a good business. Tourists coming up and visiting the winery, and lastly was because of the rich history. We operate out of 7,800 square foot prop building, and we employ 12 people. We have about 4 full-time, 8 part-time employees. We sell about 6,000 to 7,000 cases a year. We have a capacity for 10,000 cases. And what makes the winery kind of unique is for the past 35 plus years, we've been winning awards not only at the state level, but at the international and national level. We do offer a broad spectrum of tastes. It goes anywhere from a dry oak Chardonnay all the way up to a sweet red raspberry or a sweet Concord. We have right now about 35 brands. We do not only as far as wines, but we do hard ciders, and we also do distilled spirits. Some of the specialties that we do a bittersweet red vermouth. There's very few in the country that does a vermouth. That usually gets imported from Italy. And we do ports, red, white ports. We do fortified cider, which is unique. We just came out with that a couple months ago. It's been aging 2 years in French oak. Pommeau, or known as pomo in French, and Permissimo for the pear one. Again, there's very few wineries in North America that offer that. Again, on your hand, you can look at. We do sparkling ice wine. Again, very unique. Only about 2 or 3 wineries in North America produce it, so we're almost sold out of that. As far as the distilled spirits go, we do a vodka made from one of our wines. We also do a 4-grain bourbon, which is doing very well. Pretty much it's a supply thing, trying to supply Pittsburgh with that. We have rye that's aging in our rick house. The house is like a warehouse with barrels which are being stored on site. And we're doing a spiced rum, and we have brandy. We do white brandy, and we have some aged brandy, again, up in our rick house that's being aged. Everything that we do there is produced on site. The ciders, the wines, and the distilled spirits are all done there. The grapes come from the Lake Erie appellation, majority of it from Lake Erie County. We try to tie ourselves using local products. Our grains come from Greendale Farms, which also is located in northwestern PA, and that's where our distilled products, our spent grains, go to Bonnie Bell Farm out of Harmonsburg to feed their cattle. Another thing at the winery we put in was a pavilion, which has, last few years, is really nice for our customers. They can enjoy and relax and sit out the pavilion. It seats about 48 people. It's great for wedding showers and bridal showers and for small events. Yeah, well, it's fun because you stand out more being in a small community, but I think it offers something, especially to our community, that you can't get elsewhere. So we need to be unique. We need to offer a lot of choices. We can't be like out in California where you're only producing Zinfandel and Cabernet Sauvignon and you have just big tanks and that's all you produce. And going through a distributor. We're not. We're here to serve the community. That's our utmost. When people come in to the county, we want them to be attracted to us. We know people, if you're in California, you're not going to drive all the way to our winery just to visit our winery. But if you're in the area, then it's up to my job to get you into our location.
Yeah, my name's Sandy Porter, and I'm on the board of the Conneaut Lake Area Historical Society. And what I'm going to discuss today is the Barber Cemetery, the history of the Barber Cemetery. The location of the cemetery is in the borough of Conneaut Lake. It's at the end of 1st Street in Conneaut Lake. Actually, it's down near the sewage plant. Great location for that. The cemetery was established in 1836. Aaron Stewart donated 2 acres of farmland for the purpose of a burying site for the residents of Conneaut Lake, which would have been known as Evansburg at that time. Yeah, some of the tombstones are marble with a square top. Some of the other tombstones, the earlier ones, are sandstone tombstones with the rounded tops on them. There are veterans from the War of 1812 buried in the cemetery. There's also some Civil War veterans buried there. A lot of the burials at the cemetery were the result of a malaria outbreak in 1840. The Erie Canal came into being. We had the Erie Extension Canal, which ran past Conneaut Lake. Conneaut Lake was used as a reservoir for water in the canal, and the lake level was raised 9 feet. And it resulted in some of the land covered with water. The vegetation began to rot, and it created a foul odor, and it also created a malaria outbreak. And as I said, several of the victims in the cemetery, where there's approximately 40 children, 38 women that were victims of the malaria outbreak. In fact, it got so bad that many of the people in the borough left for a time being until it was resolved. Salisbury Township owns the property. In 2001, the Conneaut Lake Area Historical Society was given permission to take over as caretakers of the cemetery. At that point, the cemetery was in bad shape. It needed foliage cut down, tombstones repaired. And over a period of time, the volunteers from the Conneaut Lake Area Historical Society and the Make a Difference Day, college students, etc., came down and participated in restoring the cemetery. We get an allocation of $500 a year from the township for the upkeep of the cemetery. We have someone that cuts the grass periodically, which at this time is myself. We have a woman that does landscaping and does the planting of the flowers around there. There is a large marble monument that's in the cemetery that has the names of all of the people that are buried there, and a marble bench, and the monies for that were raised by the Historical Society, actually by selling candy bars. Approximately $10,000 to $20,000 was raised for that purpose. The Historical Society, we feel that it's a privilege and an honor to maintain the cemetery. And we put flags out there for the various holidays. And for a long time, a lot of the local people didn't know where the cemetery was. And now, in fact, we even had to build a bridge across Barber Creek to get into the cemetery. So we maintain it and keep it open to the general public. And we have visitors that come up there regularly. So we try to take care of it as best we can.
Hi, my name is Carrie Pavlik, and today I'm going to tell you about some of the paranormal activity at the Hotel Conneaut. So I first became interested in Hotel Conneaut when I was working on my senior project. I was researching paranormal legends around Crawford County, and Hotel Conneaut was the first on my list. And I just really fell in love with it then, and I started working there the next summer. So over the years working there, people would tell me even more paranormal stories. Guests would tell me about ghostly happenings that occurred to them while they were here, and I started writing them down and putting them together into a book. And then I eventually started selling that book at the hotel. So the most famous legend at the Hotel Conneaut is that of Elizabeth, and she is a bride who supposedly died in the fire in 1943. She had either just been married or her wedding was the next day. There's different reports. And her fiance got out. She continued to look for him in the flames, and she did not get out. So that's how the urban legend goes. We don't know if that's actually true because it was in April 1943, and chances are the hotel was not even open at that time. So there's no record of anyone dying in the hotel. We don't know if that's actually true or not, but that's still where a lot of the ghostly activity is attributed to Elizabeth. People will smell roses or jasmine. Objects will move and then reappear, lights on and off, doors opening and closing, water on and off. People will see a shadow out of the corner of their eye, and all of that's usually attributed to Elizabeth. We think that her room might have been room 128 in the old wing of the hotel. Whenever psychics or mediums come, they often pick up on that room or that wing, get really strong vibes from there. And one summer we were having a fireworks display for one of the holidays, and someone came in afterwards to the front desk and said, "Oh, that's a very clever publicity stunt you pulled, having the light on in Elizabeth's room and a figure standing in the window." And we said that we didn't do anything. That wing has been locked up the whole summer. So that's why we think it might be over there. So a really interesting story is that of Michael, and he's a lost little boy who is said to approach people and ask them to help him find his mother. And for a long time, that's all that I really knew about this story, until one particular summer when 3 different people all reported seeing him within a several week span. And at that time, there wasn't a lot of information in the book that I had written about this boy, about what he looked like or where he had been seen, yet all 3 people reported seeing the exact same thing. So one lady went into the fireplace room where there's now a TV, and she saw this little boy crying. He had dark hair, dark circles under his eyes, and pale skin. And she put out her arm to take his hand, and he disappeared in front of her. I can be skeptical at times too, but it's stories like this that really give you goosebumps, because all three people saw the exact same thing within a short amount of time, and there's nothing in the book about it then, so there's no way they could have compared stories or anything. And one couple was so freaked out that they actually checked out of the hotel early. So another legend at the Hotel Conneaut is the couple that dances in the ballroom. They have been seen swirling around in there. People will hear music, they'll see lights on. So people have reported seeing the ghost of a little girl on a tricycle. They will hear the sound of little giggles and then get tripped, and they think it might be that girl. Another time, a park volunteer was staying at the hotel with her husband, and they were walking down the first floor hallway when this little girl on an old-fashioned metal tricycle came just racing towards them. She had long blonde hair and was wearing an old-fashioned white dress. They had to actually physically part so that she could go by, and then they turned around and she just wasn't there. So they didn't really know what to think of it. They thought maybe there was a door that was open that she went into. They just couldn't really process it until a couple weeks later. That was the first time she had read my book, and she was looking through and she saw the story about the little girl on the tricycle, and she said she threw the book across the room and she called her husband and said it was a ghost that we saw. So another well-known ghost at the Hotel Conneaut is John, and he seems to reside in the fireplace lounge. For a long time, people would say that he would show up in photos next to the fireplace, but I've never actually seen one of these photos. Occasionally you'll see a photo of an orb or something like that. But either way, this is a very prominent ghost. Whenever mediums or psychics come to the hotel, they always pick up on him right away. They always get the exact same story. His name is John. He knows he's a ghost, and he's taken it as his personal duty to stand guard over the hotel. Countless medium has also told me that John likes me in particular, and that he is often hanging around with me, which might explain why when I said hi to him that one day, I felt something brush by my arm. We're not sure exactly the origin of John. One medium said she thought that he was a front desk clerk in the 30s or 40s, but more often we hear reports from mediums that he actually predated the hotel, that he died in a duel on the grounds of the hotel, long before the hotel was ever here, and that story has come up several times. So the only really troublesome ghost at the hotel is a chef in the restaurant, and he's been known to throw pots and pans, even knives, at employees working here. People have reported seeing candlesticks floating through the air. Another time they came in to open up for the morning, and all the garbage cans and brooms were piled in front of the door, and they had trouble even getting into the restaurant that day. Another particular summer, there was a window that they just could not keep shut. Someone would shut it and they'd come back later and it was open. They'd shut it, come back, it's open, just over and over again. So finally they nailed it shut and came back and found that the nails were bent out and it was open again. So a lot of these stories have been floating around for a long time, like Elizabeth, the couple in the ballroom. So that's how I knew that the hotel had these ghost stories when I was doing my senior project. I'd already had heard about Elizabeth just growing up. You hear about that. The other stories, as I worked here, guests would come and tell me about experiences that they had in their rooms. Psychics and mediums would come and tell me what they had picked up, and I just kept getting a lot of repetitive stories from guests and mediums. That's how I kind of put these stories together.
Hi, my name is Matthew Briggs, and I'd like to talk to you about the revitalization of Conneaut Lake Park. Conneaut Lake Park has been around since the 1890s. We just passed our 126th anniversary. The amusement park, where it sits now, started as the end of a railroad depot. The Economic Progress Alliance of Crawford County took over as the management company 4 years ago in 2015. We are in our fourth year. Since then, we've made it a point to reopen the park to the public, as in taking down the fences, making it free of charge for people just to walk around the park. People only pay to ride the rides and go into the actual water in the water park. We've taken it a point to repaint the rides. We've taken it a point to, we reopened the water park after many years. This is our third year having the water park reopen. So the water park was completely renovated. Most of the rides have new paint. All of our rides are maintained on a daily basis, so they're riding like they've never ridden before. We've also been blessed to have numerous volunteers around the park who use their own time and money to plant plants, to do all of our flower beds. They even paint. We have volunteers who have repainted some of the rides this year. We have on a daily basis customers who come in and remember some of the old rides, like the Ultimate Trip and the Hellhole and the Scrambler. And those rides are rides in the future we'd like to see brought back. They were put out of commission due to age and wear and tear and just a lack of safety for the customers. But those are three of the rides that customers ask on a daily basis. However, we have very little downtime on rides now due to our maintenance department. Our maintenance has kept rides like the Blue Streak open, the Tumblebug and the Devil's Den. I mean, rides that are between 50 and 100 years old, and they keep them at top shape so they have no breakdown, no downtime on them. And that's what customers come to the park to look for. We have a carousel that's over 100 years old. I mean, the Blue Streak will be coming close to 80 years old. The Tumblebug, it was over 90 years old. I mean, these are rides that are antique. We have actually the only carousel organ in existence, the kind that it is, that is not in a museum. Ours is actually still running on a daily basis. And we have a lot of the original horses still on the carousel. Not all of them. Unfortunately, some had been sold in the past, but it's a very nostalgic place for people to come to. I mean, we have this year alone, we had 4 generations of people there, which was amazing. The park is expanding its camperland across the street, which will allow more people to stay on a weekly and seasonal basis. We're always looking for rides. We're looking into bringing a Ferris wheel to the park. We're looking into continually upgrading our rides and increasing our rides. We have 12 rides in Kiddieland and 12 rides in the park. So the idea is to keep expanding those numbers, to keep up with the times, keep up with what people want.
My name is Robin Coxon. I chose Kiddieland at Conneaut Lake Park to be my subject for the Our Town project in Conneaut Lake because it just has so many memories for me personally and for me and my kids. While doing some research for Kiddieland or on Kiddieland, the furthest back I could find was 1950. So I'm thinking that was the beginning of Kiddieland. The pictures at the Historical Society date back to then. And also the Little Dippers, the history that I found on that said that it started operating in 1950 at Conneaut Lake Park. In Kiddieland, there are 12 different rides that kids can choose from. They're all for 54 inches or shorter, so you can't be above that to ride them. They include such things as the airplane, the Jolly Jeeps, the Jolly Caterpillar, the Little Dipper, of course, but there's a variety, and a lot of them are covered with canopies, so your kids can get in and out of the sun, which is kind of nice on a hot summer day. And also parents can sit nearby and watch their kids get on most of the rides. I mean, there's a lot of seating for parents or people who are bringing their kids there to enjoy the day, so it's just a nice place. Yeah, as a child, when I went to Kiddieland in the 70s, my favorite ride was the Little Dipper, which is, I think, a main attraction for most of the kids, because I know my cousins and we would get on the ride, And as soon as we were done, we'd run down the ramp and run back right up the ramp to get back in line. So, and we go on that over and over and over again. So, I mean, we enjoyed all the rides, but that was our favorite ride of all of them. So, and the Little Dipper is one of 26 roller coasters still in operation by the Alan Herschel Company. They were the ones who created it and actually pioneered the concept of Kiddieland back in the day. So it's kind of a nice history, too, that's tied with Conneaut Lake Park. Yeah, one of the great things about Conneaut Lake Park, and Kiddieland especially, is it's a very relaxed atmosphere. You can spend the day there. Kids don't have to stand in line forever to get on a ride, and there's several of them. I mean, 12 rides, I don't know if that sounds like a lot, but I think when you're a kid and running around the park, I think it's ample opportunity, and the low cost actually makes it a great value for parents, and it's close by. I mean, there's fantastic parks, but Conneaut Lake Park is close by, and people do come from all over to actually come to Conneaut Lake Park to enjoy the day. So, yeah, I mean, it's just a nice, relaxed atmosphere, and it's a nice, clean park. It's just a lot of fun.
My name is Tom Lewis, and Bill Beggs came with me today. We're both members of the musical group called the Dixie Doodlers, and we're very popular down here, and how we figured into the story of Conneaut Lake and Conneaut Lake Park. The park itself, as Exposition Park, was started in 1892, but Amusement started being in the picture in 1902. And then, as the park expanded, a variety of entertainment became more and more popular. And then, accommodate the guests at the hotel, or at the park, a lot of hotels came into business. And then a prominent hotel here was the Oakland Hotel, also known as the Oakland Beach Hotel. And that was very popular, but unfortunately, it was demolished in 1960. But they did retain the bottom floor of it, which oddly enough was shaped like the prow of a ship. And that was called the Marine Bar. And that is where the Dixie Doodlers come into the picture, because we played there for years, several years. And then from that location, we moved on to a supper club called the Century Inn. And we were there for 7 seasons. We were there 4 nights a week. And another interesting thing we did there was we also were featured in the park. And we strolled around the park from ride to ride and played literally on the rides. In fact, there's a hardcover book called The First 100 Years of Fun at Conneaut Lake Park. And there's a picture of us playing on the Midway. And we're in the Midway when all those jobs we featured the red and white striped coat, like the one I have on. And that became sort of our trademark. And so the Doodlers were also known by our jackets, red and white jackets, and our distinctive Dixieland music, which really was happy music. And if anyone's familiar with Dixieland, they know that it is exactly that, happy music. Another interesting thing we did, before the season actually started, we would go up and down the lake in a float boat. But we used to go all up and down the lake and played at all of our friends' docks. And sometimes we'd have as many as 100 boats following us around the lake. In fact, one time we had a rather interesting thing that happened. One of the fellows had to make a comfort stop in the middle of the lake on an island, and we stranded him there. We thought it'd be real funny to leave him there, which we did. And of course, we went back and picked him up, but he was quite relieved when we picked him up to be back on board the float boat. With the Dixie Doodlers, I spent an awful lot of time at Conneaut Lake. And in addition to play in the park, we also played the Iroquois Club down here quite a bit. We had a lot of, in addition to playing, we had a lot of personal friends in this area. and all up and down the lake. We knew so many people because we also played for private parties. We played for a lot of clam bakes, fish fries, and all sorts of parties. And we became known far and wide. And of course, in the whole area, we played in Meadville quite a bit. In fact, the Dixie Doodlers started originally as the house band at the David Mead Hotel, which is no longer there. But we played there for quite a few years. So we were very popular in this area between here, Pittsburgh, Cleveland. But I think that all in all, we played a big part in the history and in the story of Conneaut Lake and Conneaut Lake Park. And I would say the charm of the town and the park made a lot of good memories, and the nostalgia and the charm itself was enough to last a lifetime. My favorite thing about Conneaut Lake is the warmth of the people. Not only in the park, certainly in the park, but the community itself. Anytime I was playing down here, or even just came down for a visit, the whole area just reflects so much warmth and hospitality. And I would think that, in fact, there was years ago, one of the signs at the park was Conneaut Lake Park welcomes you with open arms. And I think that would still be a valid motto for the park. Conneaut Park and Conneaut Lake welcomes you with open arms.
I like Conneaut Lake because it just seems to be so restful and peaceful here. Although there's a lot of activity going on with the park and the swimming and that, it's just different than it is in town. It's just so relaxing. You just come here and forget about the cares of the world, I guess. I don't go to the beach much, and I don't get out onto the Midway very much, but I'm just so relaxed when I'm here. It's just so comforting.
I think the thing I enjoy most about living here is its rural quality, but also its uniqueness. I grew up as a summer resident here, and as a boy having my own private amusement park, my own lake, and my own swamp. All things of which I didn't have in my hometown. So these were stimulating for me growing up, and also sort of plotted my course for further education and study.
Personally, the favorite thing I like is not all the traffic. Living in Europe and living in DC with the military, crazy driving, trying to get to some place. It takes an hour sometimes to get to work, especially in the Beltway or when I was at the Pentagon. And come here in a small community, you're able to travel, and you're not that far away. I mean, you know, to go to Pittsburgh or Cleveland or Buffalo, so you know it's ideal. And you have, you know, so a lot of times you don't have to lock your car doors, so that makes it nice.
My favorite memories are Conneaut Lake. I went through grades 1 through 12. I was very involved in the sports programs. I loved the community when I was here. I spent 26 years in the service telling people about Conneaut Lake and what a very vibrant village and community it was to grow up. It has great values, great people, and a natural resource that's significant.
The reason I live here permanently is the town is a great town, a very friendly town. Everyone gets along. All the church people get along, didn't matter which denomination you are. In the wintertime, the roads are cleared. We have a great road service, and I have no desire to live anyplace else.
I love the beautiful environment of Conneaut Lake. I love the people here. I love the proximity to larger urban areas if you want to do that. So for me, it really has everything, and I love the snow.
What I love about Conneaut Lake is that I can take a step back in time. Worries seem to melt away when I come up to the lake. I just enjoy sitting on a dock and reading, taking long evening walks with my family, sitting on the porch and watching the sunset. Those are things that I look forward to every summer.
Well, I really love Conneaut Lake Park. It holds a special place in my heart. I just always feel happy when I come here, and especially when I come to the hotel. It just has a really strong energy and a positive energy, and it's like a second home for me.
What I love about Conneaut Lake is the lake. I grew up swimming in the lake, my children grew up swimming in the lake, and now my grandchildren. And I just think it's a beautiful lake.
What I love about Conneaut Lake is family and history. Our family has been coming up here for over 100 years. My grandfather bought our lakefront cottage on the east side in 1911 when my dad was 5. So it's something that's very, very dear to our family, and it's always been a refuge for us. It's always been a place to come that it's all about family, it's all about getting together, it's all about remembering our great history and appreciating the beautiful lake that we have.
I think what I like about Conneaut Lake is it is small. I came from a small town, and so this is pretty much on a par with that. Everybody knows everybody, and I think we're a caring community, and that's exemplified by the Samaritans and what they want to do to make the community better.
Well, actually, we all love the lake, and it is our greatest resource. It's what draws folks here. We've been here for 5 generations. We were cottage owners on the east side, and I live here now. And it's had a lot of changes, but a lot of things have stayed the same as well. And I just think that it attracts people who have similar mindsets and care about the same kinds of things.
Yeah, I live in Sagertown, but I enjoy Conneaut Lake. I have a boat at Nye Marina, and there's something about getting out on the water that's relaxing, and I enjoy coming out in the early morning or the evenings. And as many times as I've been out on my boat, every time you go around, you see something new and something different.
Well, coming from South Florida, where it was a very busy hustle and bustle life, I do enjoy the more laid-back aspect of Northwest Pennsylvania. The lake is beautiful. I brought my family of 5 up here. They obviously my 5 children and my wife, so family of 7. But my 5 children love the park. I love being able to let them run freely without worrying about their safety, and it's definitely and our weather. We have been blessed with such wonderful weather during the summer. Sure, you get snow during the winter, but the park is closed at that time. So,
one of my favorite things about growing up and remaining in Conneaut Lake is just the access to the park. That's one of my favorite things. It's just a nice community to live in. The people are friendly. We have the lake, the largest natural lake in Pennsylvania. So, if you want activities or if you just want to chill, it's just a great community to live in. And I've never even thought about leaving. So,
one of my favorite things about Conneaut Lake is having grown up here. Enjoyed all the friends and family and all those that are good memories about this area, and in particular the development and the opportunity that I've had to be involved in Ice House Park.
It's very easy for me to tell you what my favorite part of living at Conneaut Lake is, and it would be my neighbors and my friends that I have made. We've made countless memories and stories together, and this place is just endless with its history.
My favorite thing about Conneaut Lake would be the way the community sticks together, supports projects like this, and just creates a really nice place to live.
I think when you live in a small town, your favorite thing is always going to be the people. Of course, the lake was one of my favorites when I was growing up, just swimming every day. The nicest part is still the people. It doesn't matter. You can have mansions all over the place, but the people are what makes a small town so important and so beautiful to live in.
My favorite thing about Conneaut Lake is just that, the community. Of course, there's the lake, and it's beautiful. We don't own a boat, so we don't spend time on the lake as per se, but we know a lot of people here who love the lake and love the activities around the lake, whether it be here at the Historical Society or out on the lake or at the events that are out like Pumpkin Fest and things at Conneaut Lake Park. You know, it's a big joy. It's just a warm and wonderful place to raise a family. You know, our kids have been raised here and spent lots of time. My father worked for years at the park, you know, so we've been involved in the community for all our lives. So it's just a joy to be part of Conneaut Lake.
What I love about Conneaut Lake to me is home. When I was born, I was taken to my house in Conneaut Lake Park, and I lived there until I got married, went to Navy, come home, and now I live 3 miles away in Harmonsburg. But Conneaut Lake is home, and that's what I love about it. It's home.
Our Town Stories from Conneaut Lake is brought to you in part by Hotel Conneaut, offering affordable lodging in a relaxed, old-fashioned atmosphere. Hotel Conneaut, built in 1902, strives to maintain its historic nature and provide amenities that the modern traveler expects. To meet travelers' current needs, many modern amenities are now available in a large number of rooms. For those who prefer to step back in time, rooms are also available without these upgrades. Today, Hotel Conneaut is the only hotel in operation on Conneaut Lake and the last surviving of over a dozen hotels that once stood in Conneaut Lake Park. More information is at thehotelconneaut.com. Our Town Stories from Conneaut Lake is also brought to you in part by Conneaut Cellars Winery and Distillery, Silver Shores Restaurant, and viewers like you. Thank you.